The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Mike Fitch with the Ohio LTAP Center here at ODOT, and we appreciate your participation. As we get started, please take a moment to locate the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. During the presentation today, please use the questions box to send in any questions you might have. Looking at the handout section of the GoToWebinar panel, please note also that a PDF copy of the presentation is available for reference. With that, we will go ahead and turn things over to Jesse and Spencer. Hello.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the State Fiscal Year 2025 Ohio Workforce Mobility Partnership Program Kickoff Meeting and Program Overview Webinar. My name is Jesse Schmitzer, and I'm the Public Transit Manager at ODOT's Office of Transit, overseeing all of our programming, including the OWMP program. And I'm joined here today by Spencer Smith. Spencer, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Spencer Smith. I'm sure almost all of you know me. I'm the Urban Transit Coordinator here at ODOT. I'm working with Jesse on this program. And then once we get it awarded, I'm the one that's going to take you to the part where we flex the funding to you. So I'm with you all the way.
Thanks, Spencer. So yeah, like Spencer said, Spencer and I are working on this program together. So today we're going to provide a general overview of the OWMP program, its establishment and funding dedications. We'll also be discussing State Fiscal Year 2024 project totals, what we awarded last round, and then State Fiscal Year 2025 current funding levels, eligible projects, and project criteria considerations. And then we'll look at the expectations for the upcoming application process. So let's jump right into it. So the OWMP program was established via Section 755.20 of Ohio House Bill 23 and states that any Board of Trustees awarded grants under this section shall use the grant funding for purposes of transporting resident workforce members between the service territories of the joint rural or urban transit authorities. The board shall also use the grant money to focus on transportation that supports the employment needs of economically significant employment centers located within or near the service territories of the rural or urban transit authorities. I've underlined economic significant employment centers because we're going to talk about it a little bit later and get into exactly what that means for this program. But continuing on, so such support shall include efforts to easily, efficiently, and economically transport a resident workforce that either lives within a service territory that has little or no public transit service to an employment center or lives within one service territory but is employed full-time with another service territory. So that's a mouthful. So translated goal, to support projects in the rural and urban areas of Ohio that easily and efficiently transport resident workforce members to economically significant employment centers or to places of employment outside of their resident community. So we're talking here about crossing county lines, getting folks to job sites that they might not have access to currently due to transportation issues and things like that. So really the double translated goal is to get Ohioans to and from work. So the legislature heard loud and clear from Ohioans on the transportation barriers that limit their access to employment opportunities, and also heard loud and clear from transit agencies across the state who shared what they would need in order to meet those needs. So let's circle back to the economically significant employment center and what that means. The definition of what this means for this program is also included in what we were reading through before. And what an economically significant employment center means is a single site or multiple adjoining sites or a business park where the employers located at the site or park employ not less than 250 full-time employees who work on site. So for an economically significant employment center, that's going to be one site or multiple sites or a whole business park or one business or two businesses or three businesses located close together that collectively or singly employ 250 or plus employees. As we continue to discuss the program, think about what areas around your transit program might fall into this category, but I do want to be clear, however, that it isn't a requirement for OWMP projects to connect with an economically significant employment center, but it will result in higher scored projects ultimately if your applied for project does connect and identify an economically significant employment center if you were to apply for that. So just keep that in mind as we continue to talk about it. So overall, the OWMP program was made available $15 million for each state fiscal year, for both state fiscal year 2024 and state fiscal year 2025. So that's a total of $30 million for the program to award. So the program is currently funded utilizing flex funding. So for flex funding, this is going to be a federal funding source where the funding originated in a federal highway project, and it's going to be flexed over to the FTA so that it can be utilized for public transit projects. So examples of programs that are eligible for this type of flex funding are congestion mitigation and air quality, or CMAQ projects, surface transportation block grants, or STBG projects, tribal transportation program, flexible funding for transit access. So for the purposes of this funding source, it's important to keep in mind that the original FHWA program regulations and program requirements follow the funding even after it's flexed or transferred to FTA. So that does limit what types of transportation projects we're able to fund with these funds, but we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get really into what are some of these eligible projects. But mostly for this program, we're only going to be utilizing CMAQ and STBG flex funding to fund the projects that are ultimately awarded. So let's look at eligible OWMP program applicants. So the eligible applicants are the rural and urban transit systems in the state as defined by 306.30 to 306.53 in the Ohio Revised Code. Eligible applicants may jointly apply, meaning you can apply together with another transit agency. That could be two urban agencies, an urban and a small urban agency, an urban and a rural agency, a rural and a rural agency, but we really want to try to see that collaboration happen in order to meet the general goals of this program. In addition, and this is really unique to this program, eligible applicants may sponsor applications that include other public bodies, private entities, and nonprofits to maximize benefits. So what that means is that as a transit agency, you can sponsor an application from a nonprofit agency or maybe even a for-profit agency to see if they can partner with you to meet those needs. Please keep in mind, though, that if you are an eligible applicant and you do sponsor an application from another public body, private entity, and or nonprofit organization, you do retain the responsibility for the project as a whole, and that's in terms of compliance, ownership, and fiscal oversight. So please just keep that in mind if that's something that you're considering. So eligible projects of the OWMP program include operations, which is limited due to that CMAQ federal flex limitations, and we'll get into a little bit more soon. Planning, infrastructure projects, equipment, technology, and marketing projects, and vehicles, which we're going to look at both new and replacement vehicle options here. So last round for state fiscal year 2024, this is the first year that we administered the OWMP program. This is an overview of what we awarded last year. So last year we awarded about $8.3 million to urban, small urban, and rural providers across the state of Ohio. That funded 31 total projects, 9 in rural areas and 22 in urban and small urban areas. Ultimately, we were able to fund 2 operating projects, 10 planning projects, 10 vehicle projects, 3 infrastructure projects, and 6 equipment and technology projects. So while we were able to fund some really strong projects, we didn't meet the full state fiscal year allocation of $15 million, meaning that moving forward in state fiscal year 2025 for this program, we have a total of over $21 million that we need to award and get out the door to you guys so you can do what you do best. So as you're thinking through the state fiscal year 2025 Ohio Workforce Mobility Management Program and what you might want to apply for, please think big, but also think scalable. So we really want to see some great projects come in so that we're able to get this money to you all to do what it was intended to do. So a couple of changes to keep in mind as we change, and evolve the program from the last cycle. So operating projects are now open to all eligible entities that meet CMAQ regulations. We'll look at a map of what exactly that means and where that is. There's an inclusion of marketing for new or increased services. This wasn't an option last year as an eligible program to apply for. And we're going to also consider both new and or replacement vehicle applications this round, which we did not do last year. So a couple notable changes from the last round. So eligible projects for state fiscal year 2025 are basically the same with the inclusion of marketing. So we have operating, infrastructure, vehicles, equipment, technology, and marketing, planning. And please keep in mind that all projects must demonstrate a workforce focus. So please think about that as you're thinking about your application and how it's going to connect to workforce initiatives. So for operating projects, which is an eligible project that will be funded through CMAQ funding, eligible expenses for an application for this would be labor, fuel, salaries, administrative costs, adjustments in existing routes and service schedules do not constitute a new or expansion service. So we need to see that being a new or a bigger expansion to your operations if you plan on applying for this. It does carry a 50% local match requirement, so please keep that in mind. And examples of operations would be shuttle service, feeding a station, circular service with an activity center, fixed route service linking centers. The list could go on and on, but operating is an eligible project. So let's take a look at the CMAQ eligible areas in the state of Ohio. So this is a map of those areas. Operation projects that are located in or would benefit these areas could be considered. So if your agency is not located in a CMAQ eligible area, but you want to do a new service to the county next to you that is CMAQ eligible and there's a transit agency there that isn't going to apply, that's something that you could consider doing. If you have questions about that, please feel free to reach out to Spencer and I. We're happy to walk you through it and let you know if we think that that would be a viable or eligible project. So this gives you an idea of where those operation projects could potentially be funded. So the criteria, we'll go over some kind of a higher level overview of what the criteria is. It's not finalized yet on our end, but as soon as it is, we're going to post it on the website so it will be available publicly. But for now, just as you think about what you may want to apply for with this program for operating projects, we're going to consider if it's a joint application. So if you're applying with another transit agency, or if you're doing the sponsorship application, if it connects to an economically significant employment center, if it considers regionalization crossing those county lines, if it serves both rural and urban areas, so again, if it's connecting the rural and urban areas of the state, what the resource availability is for this new or expansion operating service. So we're going to want to see if you already have the vehicles that you need to expand or do new service, if you already have the drivers that you need, if you need to wait on another award in order to do this. So we're going to consider things like that as well. And then also that local match certification for the 50% that we need to see to ensure that you could administer the program. So the other eligible project is infrastructure. Examples of an infrastructure project would be a multimodal transit center, bus stops and bus stop area improvements, bus rapid transit projects, facility expansions and or rehabilitations, shared use transit hubs and or wait stations. So infrastructure projects all carry a 20% local match requirement. Some criteria considerations for infrastructure projects, again, include, is it a joint application? Is it going to be multiple transit agencies kind of using this facility or banding together to meet the needs of what you're trying to do? If it's going to help connect to an economically significant employment center with 250 plus employees. Your project cost estimates, if they're reasonable and demonstrate due diligence in those cost estimations. We're going to look at if your infrastructure project has already been included in planning considerations. Has it been identified? Is it a recommended infrastructure project? You will get additional points if it's shared use or multimodal. So if you're allowing other transit agencies to come in and utilize your infrastructure facility, whether that be a bus stop or whether it be a facility. And if you have additional funding that you can provide in addition to what you're requesting through this program as well. Some of these infrastructure projects can get quite large, so we're going to look at that as well. So another eligible project for the OWMP program are going to be vehicles. These can be new vehicles or replacement vehicles. They're going to carry a 20% local match requirement. Some criteria considerations for vehicles include if it's going to be a joint application, if it's going to connect to an economically significant employment center, allow you to do so. If it's going to consider regionalization, if you say we need a new vehicle so that we can cross these county lines or so that we can cross, go into different areas that we didn't service before. If it's going to increase your efficiency overall, the efficiency of what you may currently be operating, is it going to make it easier and more efficient for people to get to work centers you may already connect to? We're going to look at your current fleet status and see if the need is great, you know, and go from there with the criteria. And then we're going to weigh on if it's a new vehicle or if it's a replacement vehicle and see where we are with that. So another eligible project would be equipment, technology, and marketing. So these can include vehicle equipment upgrades, radios, mobile routers, fare collection systems, or marketing services for new or expanded routes, or routes that you may currently have that connect to workforce that folks may not be aware of. All of these projects carry a 20% local match requirement. And for each of these projects, these are some of the criteria we're going to be considering. Again, this is not finalized, so you'll have a full list and an exact number, the weight of what these criteria may look like. So for the criteria considerations for these projects, we're going to look again at joint applications, if it's going to help you connect or already connect better to an economically significant employment center, if it's going to help you regionalize or reach more folks, if it's going to increase your efficiency or give you an improved customer experience overall. We're going to look at the project timeline and the need for what you're requesting. And again, those project cost estimates, we're going to look if they're reasonable and if you demonstrate due diligence in those cost estimates overall. And then another eligible project is planning. So this could include feasibility studies, transit development plans, workforce planning, long-range transportation planning, short-range transportation planning. The list goes on. We expect to see a lot of planning applications like we did in the last round as well, because this is a new program and because there's a lot of development happening across the state, not just with transit agencies, but also with businesses that we're seeing come into the state of Ohio. So all planning projects carry a 20% local match requirement. Considerations for planning projects for the criteria that we're going to be weighing these projects on are going to be if it's a joint application, if it's going to look at an economically significant employment center, if it's going to consider regionalization, we're going to look at the long-term justification for the planning, and especially if it's going to consider any multimodal or transit hub considerations, and those transit hub and multimodals also connecting to other transportation agencies as well. So just a couple examples of some ineligible projects that we will not consider for the OWMP program in state fiscal year 2025 would be operating costs to preserve existing services. So again, that CMAQ flex funding requirement that it needs to be a new or an expansion service. So we're not able to provide any operating funds to preserve existing services. It needs to be new or expansion. Projects that do not demonstrate a workforce focus. So again, with the workforce program, that's really the main focus of what these program goals are. So you need to demonstrate that in one way or another, what you're applying for is going to meet those requirements and those goals of the program. Projects that intend to include or increase service areas into an existing systems area and do not demonstrate collaborative project support. So we want to make sure that everybody's on board. If you're looking at going into a different county, if you're looking at crossing county lines, that you're working with the transit agency that may already be there as well. So we're going to need to see that project support additionally. And then again, projects that do not meet that flex funding eligibility. And if you have any questions on a project you may be considering, if it will, please reach out to Spencer and I, and we're happy to walk you through it before you get started. So overall, these are anticipated dates. So there is an expectation that these may change. So please keep that in mind. So after today for this meeting, the intent to apply form does open. It's intended to stay open until April 19th. However, that may be extended depending on what we see and what comes through. Then the anticipated date for the program application is that will open in May. The anticipated date for it to close will be July. And then our office will review the applications and submit our recommendations to our governance board. And then award announcements, the anticipated date would be September. So again, for sure, the intent to apply form will open today. We'll make sure to send out that link in the chat here shortly. We'll also send out an email, and it will also be posted on the Ohio Workforce Mobility Partnership webpage, which I'll share that link to you as well. It's a very simple form for you to fill out. But again, these are anticipated dates of what to expect for this application cycle. So yep, again, we'll send out the link for the intent to apply form today. I'll put it in the chat, we'll send it out in email. We'll make sure all of the participants today get this. It is not a requirement for an agency to submit an application for this program, an intent to apply in order to submit an application. However, it is strongly recommended, especially for larger scale projects, for you to submit one. Applicants are not committed to the projects that you outline in your intent to apply form. They can change at the time of the application, so you're not tied to any projects that you put in there. So with that, I'm going to open it up to any questions. I think we have a few in the chat here.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
so
do.
the first question from Matthew.
Yes.
Are these project lists comprehensive? No.
No. Yes. No, they're not.
Yeah. As long as they meet the FTA and FHWA requirements, we will consider them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And let's see. Okay, we had another question. Do you need to do an intent to apply like the first year? You do not need to do an intent to apply. It's not a requirement this year, but we do strongly recommend it, especially if it's a larger scale project. And again, you're not tied to whatever project that you submit to the intent to apply. You can change it. It can evolve by the time that you get to the application. That's completely fine. The intent to apply is really just for us, since it's a new program, to get a good idea of what you all might be thinking about applying for, and also to work with you if you need to with some questions you may have with what you may be considering applying for. So no, it's not a requirement for you to submit an application ultimately, but we do recommend it. Okay. So with that, I am going to send the link to the intent to apply into the chat. And Mike, you may have to get it out to the folks for us.
Yes, I'll be glad to do that.
Okay,
And
so there's that.
We have another question I will copy to the chat just a moment.
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
Gene, again, you do not need an intent to apply in order to actually submit an application later on in the cycle. Really, we're just trying to get a feeling for what kind of projects are out there. So if you do intend to apply, we highly encourage you to let us know.
Thanks, Spencer. And Mike, I see the question: how will we be able to cycle the findings of a planning grant for fiscal year 24 into a programmatic grant for fiscal year 25? You may be able to. Yeah, and again, David, yeah, given the timing of the 24 award so close to the 25 process, yeah, you may not be able to, you may be able to just say, even if the planning process is not completely done, that you're currently working on that plan, you might not have the answers or the recommendations from that plan on time because these application cycles are so close together. So we do know that this was awarded for 2 years. We do not know beyond those 2 years yet if it's going to continue or not. That's up to the legislature. But you could still reach out to us if the plan is, in process, and we can talk about what you might be thinking, or if maybe they already kind of know what the recommendations are, but they're not finalized, and we can go from there. Just reach out to Spencer and I.
Thanks, Jesse. I've copied that FormStack link to the entire audience. And at this time, we do not see any additional questions, but as a reminder, please feel free to type in questions at any time.
Yeah, thank you all. And lastly, here's our contact information. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Spencer, or we have a general contact email, transitprograms@dot.ohio.gov. And again, reach out to us if you have any questions about this program, or if you're looking through the intent to apply, or if you have some ideas, but you're not sure if this is the right program to apply it to. We're happy to help.
We have a question.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so the question: planning projects do not need to be in CMAQ areas, correct? That's correct. The only eligible project that needs to be in a CMAQ area is for an operations project. All the other eligible projects do not need to be in CMAQ areas. It's open to the state.
And let's see, so have we reached the end of the main PowerPoint slides?
Yes, we have.
Okay, well, that was pretty fast. I tell you what, we have a few minutes right now. We could easily address any additional questions before we wrap things up for the broadcast. And while we're waiting for any final questions, Jesse or Spencer, anything else you'd want to share at this time?
Oh, I don't have anything else. No, but just like I said, please reach out to us. And we will be sending a follow-up email to everyone as well with these links, and there's some updated guidance that's coming down the pipeline, hopefully, that will give you more information on this program as it evolves.
Okay, we have our next question. And Jesse, did that question 7 come through?
Question.
Yeah, but it was the same question as question 6.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we have a few more.
Okay.
Question 8.
Okay, question 8. Any word on the next round of 5310 or OTP2 funding? We don't have set dates for state fiscal year 2026 5310 or OTP2 funding, but we are looking at the summer for that process to begin. So we'll be sure to let everyone know as soon as we know. But I would anticipate the summer will be when the letter of intent forms for those programs opens.
Great. The questions box is open, and I want to mention to the audience in the handouts section of the GoToWebinar panel, we do have a PDF copy of these slides available for download. Also, within a day or two, we'll be sending out a follow-up email to everyone with a link to that PDF and also a link to the video recording of this webinar. We'll post that to our LTAP YouTube channel. So please be on the lookout for those follow-up emails. And, question 9, perfect timing. Okay, there's question 9.
Okay, great question. Question 9. When working with a nonprofit, if vehicles are applied for and granted, who is responsible for the vehicles that the nonprofits use? That's a great question. So the transit agency that sponsors that application is ultimately responsible for the vehicles that nonprofit will use. So hopefully that answers your question. So just keep that in mind. If you're a transit agency and you want to sponsor an application, you still are responsible for the oversight of that vehicle.
All right, thanks, Jesse. Well, we've had a lot of good questions, and at this time, I think we can wrap up the broadcast. So thanks again, everyone. Any additional questions can be sent to Jesse and Spencer through their email addresses. And again, we will be sending out a follow-up email. So thanks, everyone, for your participation today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.